Home nothing. I'd like to try this thing just once. Come on, honey.
We'll show him a thing or three.
No one will agree completely with my ranking. All opinions are valid. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It would be great if, in the comments, you post your ranking 1 to 10, 1 being the best, and I will compile the viewers' choices. The criteria is based on the overall movie. You can find supporting videos of different levels of detail in the complete Fred and Ginger playlist. A link is at the end of this video. The story of Vernon and Irene Castle is the outlier in the series, because it is only a Fred and Ginger movie because Fred and Ginger are in it. Otherwise, it has nothing in common with the other 9 movies. In its time, it must have been a wonderful, nostalgic movie, but modern viewers cannot share that nostalgia. These are the reasons I rank it so low. That does not mean it is not a good movie. It is very good. It is a documentary movie about an outstanding couple and their amazing lives. It allows both Fred and, even more, Ginger to prove they could do dramatic acting, at times outstandingly. When it came out, it must have been wonderfully nostalgic for the audience. A period piece about the songs and dances from 25 years before. A happy time compared to the Depression and then World War II. Now, precious few are still alive from that time. Constricted by its biographical nature, Fred had to choreograph within the dance styles of that time, so the famous dance scenes need to take a step back, from before Fred and Busby Berkeley, before the Black Bottom and the Charleston. It is interesting to see these dance styles, to hear the music. Many classics I, being up in my years myself, recognize. It has one new song, written by the famous team of Herman Ruby and Bert Kalmar, Only When You're in My Arms, who wrote many songs back then. The movie needed a hit song, and while it is nice, it was not a hit. This is the only movie they made without a happy ending. For the first of only 2 times, Fred and Ginger are a married couple, and for the second of 2 times, the plot is not Fred chasing after Ginger in some fashion. The early courting scenes are nice, and we get a little bit of the Fred and Ginger we had come to expect. Their early career struggles are also interesting. They do have some special moments, some of that famous chemistry, here and there. The movie rushes through their successes as quickly as they can, while still explaining the amazing display of self-promotion by the Castles. What the Castles accomplished is truly astounding. Then the movie becomes sad, because of course it is sad when your husband goes off to war. This leads to the best scene in the movie, their last dance together. Ginger shines in this dramatic, broken-hearted scene leading up to the dance, and then Fred's choreography is at its best in a somber, gorgeous dance. In 2 other posts I discuss what-if scenarios. Here is a third. What if Vernon Castle had survived World War I? When the dance musical started, Vernon would have been a little old at 46, and Irene at 40. Still, you cannot discount their self-promotional abilities. It very well might have changed the entire landscape of dancing musical stars. How would Fred and Ginger have been affected? In Fred's bio, he talks about the great influence the Castles had on his developing dancing style. He and Adele went to see the Castles multiple times in several of their Broadway shows, including attending The Sunshine Girl 9 times in 1913 when he was 14, and Watch Your Step with Irving Berlin's first score. Fred might have had some personal squabbles over the years, but then he would never mention them. Again, Ginger had more than enough to make up for the pair, and this movie was no exception. The domineering, at least according to Ginger, Irene Castle very much wanted Fred to play Vernon, but not Ginger to play herself. She complained about many issues, and in a book she published later on, had more to say about Ginger. One thing I really do not get, in a movie about the Castles, going over their career, there is so much they skip, including the only movie they ever did together, The Whirl of Life, 1915. The story of Vernon and Irene Castle was produced by George Haight, directed by H.C. Potter, songs by Herman Ruby and Bert Kalmar, and an entire decade of songwriters. Co-starring Edna Mae Oliver, Walter Brennan, and Lou Fields. Fred, playing Vernon Castle, is a second comic in Lou Fields' Henpex. He is last billed on the poster, bottom right. The old music is continuous in this movie, starting off with Oh, You Beautiful Doll, and now, on the beach, they are playing By the Beautiful Sea. Fred and Ginger meet in the water, both saving a drowning little dog. Fred gets into Ginger's boat afterwards and is taken to her home to dry off. 18-year-old Ginger is thrilled to meet a real performer like Fred. Ginger recreates a dance Irene Castle recreated in her youth, the Yama Yama Man, originally performed by Bessie McCoy in her Broadway show, The Three Twins. McCoy's act seems strange now, but in its day, it was a huge hit. Ginger walks Fred to the train station, and while waiting there, a large group arrives, and one, played by Sonny Lamont, starts dancing to By the Light of the Silvery Moon. Fred decides to upstage the dancer, showing off for Ginger. As he gets on the train, Fred kisses Ginger on the cheek. Her reaction is priceless. Ginger takes her friends to go see Fred's act. She is stunned and humiliated when he performs as a comic, not a dancer. She goes to his dressing room, not to congratulate him, but to furiously berate him for demeaning himself so, when he could be a great dancer. He becomes angry at the insults. Fred stops by the next week, and they begin dating and practicing a dance routine. The only new song in the movie was Only When You're in My Arms, which Fred sings before he finally pops the question. It was written by Con Conrad and the famous composer team of Ruby and Kalmar. Again, funny how much Fred and Ginger's careers intersect with other famous personalities. Ginger's first Broadway play was Ruby and Kalmar's Top Speed. Later, Fred did a movie about their lives, Three Little Words. The just married Fred and Ginger do an audition for Fred's boss, Lou Fields. Fields plays himself, a famous actor, comedian, vaudeville star, theater manager, and producer. He started off in a comedy duo with Joe Weber, and by 1896 the team opened the Weber and Fields Broadway Music Hall, where they produced shows. In 1911, Fields, now working alone, did produce a show, The Henpex, that Vernon did have a supporting role in. Fields rejects the act. Who wants to see a man dance with his wife? I wonder if he did that in real life. Lucky for them, French producers brought the rights to do Fields' Henpex in Paris and offer them a role in the play. Off they go to Paris, but the play's start is delayed and they are almost broke. When it finally starts, Fred is stunned that they want him to do his comedic role, not his new dance routine. He has no choice but to do the act. Ginger is devastated, blames herself for pushing Fred to dance. She says at least he has a job. They are dead broke. There are times that Fred is so charming. He softly asks Ginger to dance with him. The apartment below had complained about their dancing, so they gently trot around the table. This becomes their famous castle walk. Entertainment manager Maggie Sutton, played by Edna Mae Oliver, comes up to see what is going on. Impressed with the dance, she offers them an audition at the prestigious Café de Paris. At the club, Louis Mercier performed Darktown Strutter's Ball with the Jean Sablon voiceover. Oliver brings royalty to their audition. They do the castle walk to Too Much Mustard and are a huge hit, going from near starvation to stardom overnight. The movie covers this period quickly, a blur, which it very much possibly felt like to the Castles. Stars in Paris, their return to America was met with great fanfare. In short order, they changed their world, from how Americans danced, dressed, and even how women wore their hair. Irene was a fashion icon and introduced the bobbed hairstyle. They published a bestseller about dance, opened a dance school, nightclub, and restaurant, and promoted many different product lines. They introduced or popularized the tango, foxtrot, polka, and the maxiques. I am lost as to why the story omits their Broadway plays, including Watch Your Step, 1914, Irving Berlin's first musical. It was here they refined and popularized the foxtrot, their longest enduring legacy. And it ignores their only movie, The Whirl of Life, 1915. They toured the nation and then declared to Oliver they wanted to settle down. The train pulls into a station, and Fred and Ginger look to see what the ruckus is about. Their lives, everyone's lives, is disrupted with the news World War I has started. Fred is an English citizen, so he is heavily affected. Ginger fears for the future. They buy a home and enjoy some peace and quiet. Oliver visits and warns Ginger men will do what they feel they have to during war. Ginger is shocked when she finds Fred in a uniform, but it is just for a benefit for English soldiers Fred is to perform in. Still, she knows Oliver is right. Fred does a comedy song and dance to Hello, Hello, Who's Your Lady Friend for the benefit. Fred disappears after talking to a recruiter. Ginger frantically searches for Fred. When she finds him, he tells her he is enlisted into the Royal Air Force. Ginger is supportive, but terrified. Fred is flying a photo reconnaissance mission under heavy anti-aircraft fire. When he gets back, Brennan tells him Ginger is in Paris. A bullet has destroyed all his photos, and he cannot take leave until they are retaken, so he sends Brennan ahead and flies off again. At the Café de Paris, Fred is late, and Ginger is worried. The owner calls Ginger up to perform a dance, but she cannot even find words to speak. Then Fred appears. Ginger is joyous, and they dance. It was previously announced this would be Fred and Ginger's last movie, and this was their last dance. Quite a crowd appeared for the shoot. One critic thought it odd their last dance would be a simple waltz. Simple, yes, but beautiful. Number 84 Drive-In Top 100 Movie Dances. There is one special moment where Fred lifts Ginger, and she rests her head back on his shoulder, and they spin. It ends with the two of them staring into each other's eyes, their faces just inches apart, as they have done so many times before. Well done. The next scene opens at 5 a.m., with Fred having to return to his unit soon. It's a warm, touching scene, with Ginger worrying, on the verge of tears, and Fred doing what he can to comfort and console his wife. They hear a ruckus downstairs and find out everyone is celebrating America's entrance into the war. Now, in 1939, with another world war going on, it was time to remember our great contribution to the last one. Ginger helps with the war effort, while Fred flies combat missions. Ginger is starring in her first silent movie without Fred, Patria, and would star in 19 silent movies in total between 1915 and 1922. It's interesting to see, with sound not being an issue, the sets crushed up against each other. Ginger gets a call from Fred, now assigned as a trainer in America, and they plan their reunion in Fort Worth, Texas. Interesting coincidence, Ginger grew up in Fort Worth. The wait and the long train trip are exasperating. Fred arranges everything perfectly, including a band to play their favorite songs. Unexpectedly, Fred gets called back to duty for a general's inspection. Fred insists on the trainee taking the back seat for his protection. Ginger and Oliver arrive, and Ginger sees Fred flying overhead. Fred barely avoids a collision and comes crashing down into the ground. His trainee in the back seat survives, but Fred perishes in the crash. The band plays the songs from their life together as Ginger waits for Fred. Brennan tells her the tragic news. She is devastated, but wants the band to continue playing Fred's choices. Ginger is excellent in this scene, once again proving she was a great dramatic actress. Ginger sees them dancing in the courtyard as we say goodbye to Vernon and Irene, and, at the same time, to Fred and Ginger. This was the end in many ways. The end of Vernon. The end of Vernon and Irene's amazing story. The end of the magical 9-movie, 6-year partnership of Fred and Ginger. All this makes their twirling away into the mist all the more poignant. Please like and subscribe.